here. Welcome back to my course on guitar chords and how to use them. This is lesson 12 of the chord course at guitaru.com, the best free guitar school anywhere. I was just playing something called suspended chords, one of my favorite topics on the subject of guitar playing. Suspended chords are very interesting and beautiful and fresh-sounding chords. You also can learn a lot about music and take your playing up a few notches if we make a complete study of the suspended chords. In this lesson, I'd like to accomplish 4 things. 1. To review the theory behind suspended chords and start playing them right away, getting those wonderful suspended sounds in your ear. 2. To do a brief survey of 10 famous and favorite licks and rhythm guitar hooks using suspended chords. 3. To present the 5 most common and most useful applications of suspended chords as it pertains to you, the modern guitar player. And finally, to provide you with an excellent chord reference for suspended chords. The printed material in this course is fairly extensive and will get you well on your way to having a professional's vocabulary of suspended chords. Before we do a quick rundown of the music theory involved with understanding suspended chords, let's play a sus2 and a sus4 chord on our guitars to really get the sound of those chords in our ear. This idea is nice in the key of F. If I start out with a basic old F triad, F, A, C, pick up my middle finger for F, G, C, or F sus2, back to the F triad, put my pinky down for F sus4. Now that we have had the opportunity to play and hear F sus2 and F sus4 to get the sound of those suspended chords in our ear, let's examine the theory associated with suspended chords. Of course, in music theory, the major scale is the king. The most common chord is a major triad. The formula for a major triad is 1, 3, 5, the first, third, and fifth notes of the major scale. The spelling is FAC. If I were to take the third note of the scale, the note that makes the chord major or minor, and replace it with the fourth note of the scale, I have a chord called F suspended 4. If I were to take the second note of the scale and put that in place of the third note, the A, I would have a chord called F suspended 2. Since suspended chords don't contain a third, their sound is often thought of as ambiguous and undefined. Remember, the difference between a major chord and a minor chord is the third. The minor chord has the flat third, the major chord the natural third. A suspended chord contains neither. That's why they're so interesting and ambiguous. Okay, now of course, let's listen to some excellent songs and famous and favorite licks and riffs using suspended chords. The first time I ever heard a suspended chord was in a song called Honky Tonk Woman by the Rolling Stones. He starts out on a G, then does C to C suspended. And it just really knocked me out. It's such a beautiful sound, I became immediately fascinated with them and started looking for them everywhere in my favorite songs. And I managed to find quite a few of them. Here are 10 great ones. F7 is classified as a dominant chord. An F dominant chord is spelled F-A-C-E flat, 1-3-5 flat 7 of the F major scale, with F serving as the root and A as the natural 3. If I were going to make that F7 an F7 suspended 4, I would simply throw out the third, replace it with a fourth, the B flat, and I would have F7 sus 4. Now look at the bottom diagram. That's F minor 7. If I wanted to play F minor 7 suspended 4, I would naturally change the A flat note, that's the third of the F minor chord, replace that with a B flat note, that's the fourth of the F minor scale, and I would have F minor 7 suspended 4th. The interesting thing about this is F minor 7 suspended 4 and F7 suspended 4 are exactly the same spelling. Since neither one of them contain a third but a fourth, root, fourth, fifth, and flat 7, they are the same. In this lesson, I'm going to cover the 5 most common uses of a suspended chord and the suspended sound. First of all, let's talk about the quality. Major chords are strong and happy, minor chords are dark and sad. But what words would we use to describe a suspended chord? I call them mysterious, ambiguous, undefined, fresh, glassy, or ringing. These are just some of the words in my world. You can come up with your own, of course. Remember, I've always said that music theory is nothing more than words to describe sounds. So really think about what those suspended chords mean to you. The first use of a suspended chord is sort of like a song within a song, a cadence within a cadence. If I was playing G, C, D, and then D sus, I played like a little bit of tension and release all within that one chord change. I didn't change chords, I didn't change root notes. It was just a way for me to add a little more interest and a little more tension and release within one chord change. I call it the song within the song, or the cadence within the cadence. The second use of a suspended chord is just a flat-out substitute. If you see A7, put A7 sus. D minor 7 sus. For example, if I were going to play a favorite progression, 1, 6, 2, 5 in D. So I'd have D, B minor, E minor, A7. Not bad. But if I use my rules of substituting and play D major 7, B minor 7, E minor 7, and A9 suspended, which is one of my favorites, you'll see I'll get that fresh, ringing, interesting sound. So D, ambiguous, undefined sound, and finally resolving to D. The third use of a suspended chord is derived from classical music. In classical music, the term suspension or suspended means something entirely different than it does to you and I as modern guitar players. It's also called a lingering tone, which means that it's a note that's left over from one chord to the next, a common note between two chords, and then finally resolving. Let me explain that to you. The lingering tone. Here I'm going to play F. So I have C, F, A. Now I'm going to transition to C via C sus 4. Now I have C, F, G, which is C sus 4, and then I resolve. So it's a small difference, but an important one, albeit a subtle one. This is of great use to you if you have a home studio and you like to make arrangements for other instruments such as string parts or flute parts or horn parts. That suspended tone can be a real lifesaver, and it can be an absolute knockout when you master it. The fourth use of the suspended chord is to create interesting interludes and breaks. An area of repose, of relaxed tonality, of ambiguous interest, of a very interesting kind of tension. Let's suppose I'm cadencing to C. I just finished my chord progression in C, and here I come to home bass. Alright, now normally I just jump right back to C. Okay, but now I'm going to go to a suspended chord with a root note a minor third higher than the C, E flat 7 sus. So here I am coming to my final cadence. Now instead of jumping back to the C, now back to the C. I can also use a flat 7 in this regard. So here I am coming back to C. Here's my C. And then B flat sus. And my third way to use a sus7 chord as an interlude would be to build that chord on the fifth. So if I'm ending in C, I'm going to go to G7. However, I also like to put the fifth of that chord in the bass, so that would be G7 over D. So I could call that G7 sus or D7 sus. Either way, it sounds great. There's my final cadence. Let's try that again. The fifth and final way to use a suspended chord for you, the modern guitar player, is simply to use the chord as a one chord, as home bass, as the point of cadence, as the tonic. I originally heard this on a record called Maiden Voyage by Herbie Hancock. The title cut, Maiden Voyage, does exactly that. It's D7 sus. And there's another one called Dolphin Dance on that record that also uses the suspended chord as home bass. Those are the 5 ways in which you use suspended chords as a modern guitar player. This is Carl. Thanks for checking out my stuff. I appreciate your time. I hope you're enjoying studying at guitaru.com, because I sure enjoyed making it. I'll see you next time.